Now, the People's Democratic Party has condemned the creation of a so-called National Caretaker Committee by a group led by FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, calling it an absurd and illegal move. PDP's National Publicity Secretary, Comrade Ini Ememobong, said the committee was clearly set up to serve personal political interests and has no authority within the party. He emphasized that all official PDP organs, including the National Executive Committee and Board of Trustees under Chairman Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, remain intact. Ememobong added that Wike, through his agents, had previously filed a court suit challenging the PDP's convention and announcing the caretaker committee amounts to contempt of court. PDP described the move as an attempt to undermine the party and weaken its role as Nigeria's main opposition. The party also announced an Osun State Governorship Appeal Panel ahead of the 2026 primary. The panel, chaired by Turaki, will hear appeals from the primary election and ensure disputes are settled according to the PDP constitution, electoral guidelines and the 2022 Electoral Act.
Well, the problem in the main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, persists, and it looks like there is no way out, at least no end in sight for now. Join us for a conversation. Joining us in the conversation live is the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, former Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs under the President Jonathan's administration. I will welcome the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, live on Daybreak on Arise News. Thank you for joining us, the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Kabiru Tanimu Turaki. Really nice to see you again.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Okay, I think the last time was when I was in your office, after you brokered that negotiation with some insurgents under the Jonathan's administration. But now we are taking you, as posterity will preserve this conversation, as the leader, the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party. Now, a lot of people are worried about the fractured and fragmented state of the People's Democratic Party, and many believe that is the flagrant defiance of the party's leadership to internal democracy and the rule of law. And the situation that that heralded you as the national chairman of the party, many viewed this as grossly undermining the consensus provided by your party. Some people believe that the process was hijacked by some powerful people undermining democratic principle in the Northwest, within the Northwest caucus. How would you respond to this? Because many believe that the process of emergence has further turned the party into a factional state. How would you respond to this?
Thank you very much, Benga, for this question. Now, it's important for us to understand that PDP over the years has always maintained a pattern of leadership selection. For instance, the National Executive Committee of the party set up a National Zoning Committee. And that National Zoning Committee zoned the presidential ticket to the southern part of this country, and then zoned the national chairmanship ticket to the northern part of this country, which meant that the status quo, as far as the party office is concerned, was allowed to remain the way it is. Now, the Northern Caucus met, and when the Northern Caucus met, after a lot of argument and persuasive argument for that matter, it was agreed unanimously that the national chairmanship of the party should be micro-zoned to the northwestern zone of the country. Now, however, it was stated quite emphatically that because of the significance of the office of the national chairman, it is not only the leaders from Northwest that will be allowed to sit down and decide who will be the candidate for that position. And that was how it has always been. I can recall about 4 years ago when Dr. Yoshi Ayu was elected, it was the Northern Caucus that sat down and then microzoned to the North Central. However, all leaders from the three zones in the North sat down in the governor's lodge and then agreed that Yosha Ayu should be the candidate. So the process that led to my selection as a consensus candidate is not something that is unique, it's not something that is unprecedented. However, in politics, we must understand that people will always have their own interest. People will always have their say. But in a democracy, the majority will always have their way. How many people expressed a desire from the Northwest Zone to contest for the office of the national chairmanship of the party? We were 4. Myself, Governor Ahmed Makarfi of Kaduna State, who later withdrew, Governor Ibrahim Shekaro, who later also accepted the verdict of the leaders of the North when they sat down and then produced me as a consensus candidate. And of course, my elder brother, Alhaji Sule Lamido. But at the consensus, it was agreed that notwithstanding the decision of the leaders of the North, any other person who was dissatisfied or who was still insistent on wanting to contest was free to do so. But if you want to contest, then you must contest within the parameters set by the party. In other words, you must go and buy form within the time stipulated by the National Executive Committee of the party. Number 2, you must fill that form and submit it within the window allowed by the program of the party. Number 3, you must subject yourself to screening exercise, and so on and so forth. So, if anybody wished to contest and he was unable to meet up with the criteria that was advertised and agreed upon at the National Executive Committee level of the party, then they are on their own. So it will really be...
Okay, I think there is a technical...
Biden was flawed.
Okay, great. I think he's back.
Yes. Yes. So I was selected by the Northern Caucus. I presented myself as a candidate. I was screened. I attended the convention, which was lawfully convened in Ibadan, and I was elected. Was flawed and so on the table. But people have their views, regardless.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, can you still hear us? Oh, okay.
Yes.
So what you are saying essentially is that Alhaji Sule Lamido has no case. That's number one. I want you to comment on that because he did threaten to take the party to court concerning that chairmanship forms. Then secondly, there was that widely covered altercation at the party secretariat between your side of the party and a faction led by Minister Nyesom Wike. And that day, everyone literally saw that as a show of shame, you know, you're being watched across the world. And that day, you also called on the United States to intervene to save Nigerian democracy. Mr. Chairman, do you really believe that the United States is interested in local party politics, fighting between grown men, when President Trump has called Nigeria a disgraced country? What were you thinking, calling on the U.S. to come and save Nigerian democracy?
Okay. Regarding my elder brother, Sule Lamido, you see, in the Northwest, we have a pattern when it comes to sharing NWC positions. We have 3 groupings in Northwest Zone. We have Kano and Jigawa as a group. We have Kaduna and Katsina as another group. And then we have Sokoto, Kebbi, and Zamfara as the 3rd group. Now, usually every zone has 3 National Working Committee positions. Now, 2 NWC in addition to the position of the zonal vice chairman. Now, before this time, the election of the Northwest ESCO was done. And Jigawa, under Ambassador Ibrahim, held onto the position of the National Vice Chairman, representing Jigawa and Kano. And that position now shifted from Jigawa to go to Kano. And it's now being held by Senator Bello Hayatu Gorzo. So as far as Kano and Jigawa are concerned, they have now gotten their own position. So the two other positions that will come will now be for Kaduna and Katsina and Sokoto, Kebbi and Zamfara respectively. And the two positions that were now microzoned to us were the position of the national chairman and the position of the national legal advisor. So it was now agreed that since Kaduna had just finished office of the national youth leader, so any other position that will come for Katsina and Kaduna will now go to Katsina. And that was why the position of national legal advisor now went to Katsina. Now, Umaru Boture had just finished office as the national organizing secretary. So any other position that will come to that other group also will now belong to Zamfara and Kebbi. So our argument, and I had cause to discuss with my elder brother Sule Lamido, I say if you are insisting you want to be chairman, now it means then that Kano is now holding the position of zonal vice chairman, which is being held by Senator Bello Hayatu Gorzo. And if you now insist and you become the national chairman from Jigawa again, it means then that either Kaduna and Katsina or Sokoto, Kebbi and Zamfara will not have a representation in the National Working Committee. I told him, this is a matter of fairness, equity, and justice. And he said, yes, he agreed with me. But as far as he's concerned, that the issue of fairness, equity, and justice will be overridden by the issue of competence and capacity. And so I said, are you now telling me that I'm not competent or I do not have the capacity? He had no answer for that. So the reality on the ground. Zoning had been done. So Jigawa and Kano, they have their own. Katsina and Kaduna, they have their own. Sokoto, Kebbi, and Zamfara have their own, which is the position I'm holding now as the national chairman. Now, it is wrong for anybody to say that PDP is factionalized. There is no faction in PDP. Now, we had problems like any other political party. And since when we lost election in 2015, anything that any political party could go through, we've gone through as a PDP, as a party. We've learned our lessons. But we are now making efforts to now put all those things behind us while learning a lot of lessons from those experiences that we've had. So, for anybody to say that for anybody to say that in an NWC of 21 persons, 3 members were found to be sabotaging the party, and they were warned in writing. They persisted, and they were cautioned. They persisted. And then the membership in a duly constituted NWC meeting sat down.
Mr. Chairman, in the interest of time, can you please go on to the second question, why you're calling on the U.S. to save Nigerian democracy?
Fine. Now, if you look at what happened that day, well, after I was swearing in Ibadan, we now gave notice to say that we are going to have our inaugural meeting on Tuesday. Now, when we came back, we were making arrangements to have the inaugural NWC meeting on Tuesday, and information got to us that our friends who had been expelled at the National Convention in Ibadan were also planning to invade our office and have a meeting. I, in company of other members of NWC, went to meet the FCT Commissioner of Police, and we told him that this is what was happening. And we do not want any event to happen that will disrupt the public peace. And the CP assured me that he was going to take preemptive steps to ensure that our meeting was not disrupted and that there was no breach of law and order. And so, armed with that confidence and assurance that was given to us, we had already extended invitation right from the convention grant to our members and leaders to arrive. Unfortunately, when we went there, we discovered that our friends who were no longer members of our party had get entry into the party, and the police were now protecting them. And they now came in company of armed thugs. And we felt that this was not necessary. So we spoke to the superior police officer who was there. We said, look, we've given notice to the police in writing. And yesterday I had an interface with the commissioner of police. What is happening? They said, okay, we should allow them to hold meeting that day, and then we should come back. I said, we don't have meeting where they are going to hold meeting wherever they want to hold their meetings. In any case, they've always been meeting in the official residence of the minister of the FCT. Let them go and hold their meeting there because they are not members of our party. But we are not going to allow them to move into our facilities and then hold meetings there because they were no longer members of our party. And so we attempted to move into our office and then have our meeting. And then, of course, the members of public saw what happened. We were tear gas, over 100 canisters of tear gas were fired at us, including 2 serving governors who have immunity. But did we react? We didn't. We persisted. We insisted that we had a right to walk into our office and then carry out our legitimate business. At the end of the day, the FCT minister was summoned by those people. He came with more than 200 policemen and again further army of armed thugs. And then he wanted to go inside. When the police initially said we cannot drive our vehicles, including those of the governors, into the premises of our party, we said, okay, we'll park outside and then walk inside. But then, when the FCT minister came, the police said he will now drive his car inside. We said, if you do that, then at least my vehicle and that of those governors that were there must go in. And we drove our vehicles in. Now, what happened was we were attacked. They were trying to beat us. Of course, we resisted. We have the right to defend ourselves as individuals. We have the right to defend our properties as party leaders. So what we did that day was to call on international community, because we feel that the situation was such that the APC-led federal government is trying to truncate democracy in Nigeria. Look at what is happening to Labour Party. Look at what is happening to SDP. Look at what is happening to ADC. Look at what they are now trying to do to PDP. And so we feel that America as a country should have more than a passing interest in democratic practice anywhere in the world, especially where a country says we are practicing presidential democracy. And that is what we are practicing, we are copying from them. So we're only asking them. And my call was not restricted to Trump and United States of America. I also extended the call to all civilized nations, all advanced democracies, to come to our aid. Because Nigeria is such that you cannot force a one-party system on us. That is the reality on the ground. That is what we said. And everybody who saw what happened that day saw that we were victims, we were attacked,
can you hear me?
we were prevented.
Mr. Chairman, I think your explanation has been well understood. Recently, your party has issued some expulsion certificates to some of your high-profile members. Can you explain to us what the reason was behind these actions?
All right. Now, having taken decision at the highest level of governance of the party, which is our national convention, and they've been expelled. And we know that our laws frown at double membership or dual membership of any person into a political party. And we knew that not being members of PDP, probably, if they still want to play politics, they may want to go to other political parties. And we wanted to assist them. We don't want a situation where they will approach a political party to say, oh, we want to register as members of this political party, and then those people will say, we hear you are still fighting to remain in PDP. So what we did, by giving them those certificates of expulsion, is to assist them when they go to register with any other political party, they have something to show to those political parties. Say, we are no longer members of PDP, we have been expelled. This is evidence of our expulsion. So, if anything, I think they should be grateful for what we've done proactively to assist them to get registered into other political parties they may wish to join.
Okay, in the face of this factional crisis, we have the Abdurrahman's faction, which is being led by Nyesom Wike. We understand is a political disruptive influence in the party, which looks like he's more like a political spoiler, you might want to say. But when you look at the legal realities he's pushing forward and the defiance of your party leadership to some of these constitutional demands. And let me read it out to you so that you can tell me your party's position in all this. And the fact that you mentioned Sule Lamido, but we all saw when he went for the expression of interest form and he was told to go to Adamawa to collect the form. Is that the practice? Then number one, now let's look at the 6 points demand that was made, and that is a new Southeast Zonal Congress should be urgently conducted. a fresh Congress must be held in Ebonyi and Anambra State in strict compliance with subsisting court judgments, mind you. The outcome of the South-South Congress in Calabar, already upheld by the court, should be respected. And PDP immediately should conduct the Ekiti local government congresses in line with judicial pronouncements. And there should be no micro-zoning of offices beyond the general zoning formula already adopted by the National Executive Committee. And the national chairmanship position must remain in the North Central. You are from the Northwest. Complete defiance of many of these demands by a senior member of the party. So looking at the connection between, now we saw someone contesting, denied and being told to go down all the way to Adamawa, and the party headquarters is in Abuja. And now the party's flagrant defiance of many of these court orders. How would you respond to these demands?
I think it's uncharitable for anybody to say that anybody was asked to go to Adamawa to buy forms. I bought forms. I bought my form at Legacy House. Now it's the normal practice within PDP. In every convention,
so doesn't that show
the headquarters
an on uniform standard, and on level playing ground? If someone else is asked to go to Adamawa to collect his expression of interest form, and you got your...
Nobody said that. Benga, let me correct that impression. Let me correct that impression. No, Sule Lamido came on TV and said he was asked to go, arising from what Umaru Boture told him, that as the National Organizing Secretary, that he was not aware of where the funds were being sold, he should contact the governor of Adamawa State, because he was the chairman of the National Convention Organizing Committee. But the headquarters of the convention was housed at Legacy House. I went to buy my form there. I bought it there. And every other candidate bought his or her forms there. So it's uncharitable for anybody to say that anyone was asked to go to Adamawa and do so. That is number one. Number two, nobody, no individual is bigger than a political party. Before 4 years ago, when Dr. Iyoshi Ayu became the national chairman of the party. Now, where was the chairmanship of the party zoned? It was zoned to the South-South. It was zoned to southern Nigeria. Who was the chairman then? It was Secondos from River State. It was microzone there. Who was at the forefront of that microzoning? Nyesom Wike was in the forefront of that. Secondos became the national chairman. Why did anybody say, no, it must stay there? Now, subsequently, when the National Zoning Committee sat again and then rezoned the chairmanship to the north, it was the leaders of the north who sat down and said, okay, between the three zones in the north, where do we microzone it to? And it was agreed to be microzoned to North Central. So why should anybody now insist that that microzoning that was done 4 years ago should be allowed to stand, but no new microzoning should be done? Whereas the position that were now zoned to southern Nigeria were further microzoned, but the north should not further microzone their oath. It's not fair. The northern leaders had the right. We sat down in a meeting that was attended by all the leaders from the north, and we agreed, like I said initially, that legitimate arguments were advanced. And then it was agreed that, look, North Central Zone had more than 6 chairmen over the years, starting with Solomon La, coming to Gemade, coming to Let Audu Ogbe, coming to Senator Ahmadu Ali, coming to Baraji, Kawu Baraji, coming to Yoshi Ayu. North West had never produced a national chairman. Yes, twice we acted. When Dr. Bello acted as a national chairman for about a year and a half, and so. So it is not right for anybody to say. The other aspect, let me take it. Quickly, we had agreed at NEC that we are going to conduct congresses in Abia, in Ebonyi, and in South-East Zone. But don't forget that there is an order of the Federal High Court in Enugu which restrained PDP from proceeding. And so as a law-abiding party, we had to obey that order. So if a court says, do not proceed until the matter is determined, and we were now obeying that order, can anybody say that we had failed to conduct Congress in those states? No.
These
are the
Mr.
facts
Chairman,
that they're hiding from the public. And these are the facts that members of the public should know.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for making that point. We're almost out of time, but very quickly, how will you deal with the Minister Nyesom Wike problem? Because that's what everybody says, that here is a problem for the party, and also the financing of the party as you're losing governors in droves. Very quickly, sir.
Well, on a personal note, let me say that Nyesom Wike is a personal and close friend of mine. We do not have any personal differences with him. He knows that, and people who know my relationship with him also appreciate that. But when it comes to the issues of survival of PDP as a political party, we will do anything under my control to ensure that PDP survives, because the responsibility has been given to me, and we must make sure that we do that. However, if for whatever reason my friend and former colleague, Nyesom Wike, is still desirous of coming back to PDP after expulsion, he knows the steps he should take. Let him come out and apologize. Let him reach out to us. We, as new leadership for PDP, are desirous of getting more and more people into the party, not driving people away. It's with a heavy heart that the National Convention had to expel them from the party, but the party got to do what got to be done, because we must survive as a political party. So that is the reality. If they want to come back, PDP, let them apologize.
It's quite unfortunate. This is one of the most engaging interviews that every Nigerian would want to hear, and I'm sure that you would love to join us many other times, but for now we are pressed for time. Thank you very much for making our time to be part of Daybreak discussion on these issues that you've raised. Thank you very much indeed. And that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. I'm Benga Ashuri. Have a most pleasant day. Goodbye.
And I'm Constance Ikoko. Thanks for joining us on Daybreak.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.